Your team isn't underperforming. They're undercommunicated with. Come closer. Let me explain. Here's what that actually looks like. A business owner has a team member who keeps missing deadlines, same deadlines week after week. She's frustrated, rightfully so. She's been patient. She's starting to wonder if this person is just not cut out for the role. But here's what's actually happening. That team member doesn't fully understand how their work connects to the bigger picture. They have no idea of what on time actually means for the client relationship downstream. They don't know that missing Thursday means that the whole delivery chain breaks by Monday. Why? Because nobody told them. Not because nobody cared, but because the leader assumed that they already knew. Now, that's not a performance problem, friend. That's a communication gap that's dressed up as one. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to tell the difference. But first, I want to welcome you to The Quiet Mic. I am Natasha, and this channel is for business owners and leaders who want to lead their teams very well without spending all their time trying to figure things out while everything else is going sideways. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you, tell you go ahead and hit that subscribe button while you're here. Why? Because something is coming very soon that I am positive you're going to want to be in a room for. Okay. Now, today we're getting direct. I'm going to be talking about three realities about performance problems that most business leaders and owners never really hear. Here's the misdiagnosis that costs small business owners the most time, the most energy, and the most money. You see, when a team member underperforms, the default conclusion is that something is wrong with the person. And it's something to the tune of, well, they're not motivated, they don't care enough, they're not the right fit. And I will admit, sometimes that's very true. But most of the time, it's not true at all. Okay. Most of the time, what looks like a performance problem is actually a communication problem. A lot of times, it's a gap between what the leader knows, expects, and sees clearly in their head and what actually made it to the team member in a way that they could actually act on. Simply put, the expectations only live in your head, friend. And as a result, the work suffers, not because the person can't do it, but because they were never fully equipped to do it the right way. Now, here are the three realities that show up, and exactly I'm going to talk about how that plays out. I won't be here before you long, so let's go ahead and get into it. Okay. Reality number one. Now, this one is that most underperformance starts with an assumption that the leader already made. Now, here is the reality about that. Most leaders assume that their team understands more than they actually do. And it's not because the team is incapable of understanding, but because the leader never verified that the understanding was actually there. You know your business inside and out. You know why certain things matter. You know the history behind the decisions. You know the client relationships, the financial pressure, the standard that you're holding. Why? Because you've been living this. But guess what? Your team hasn't. And when you communicate from the place of someone who already knows everything, you tend to skip steps without even realizing it. You leave out context that feels obvious to you, but is totally invisible to them. And here's what that looks like in practice. Let's say it's a business owner. They tell her team member to handle a client follow up by the end of the day. Now, the team member sends a quick check in email at 4:58 p.m. and considers it done, right? Well, the business owner expected a detailed update with next steps and a proposed timeline. Neither of them are wrong, but only one of them knew what end of day follow up actually meant in this context. Okay. And it wasn't the team member. The team member didn't underperform. The expectation was never actually communicated, it was assumed instead. And assumptions are where performance gaps are born. What I've seen play out consistently across organizations of every size is this: most performance gaps are not a people problem, they're an assumption that never got spoken out loud. Okay. And that leads us to reality number two. Reality number two is your team cannot read your mind, but they've learned to pretend that they can. This is the one that tends to make business owners get very quiet for just a minute. And here's why. When communication is unclear, and a team member gets it wrong, one of two things happens. Either they ask for clarification or they guess. And here's what most business owners don't realize: the longer that someone works for you, the more that they learn to guess, because asking questions has a cost. It takes time. It may make them look like they don't know what they're doing. And if the leader has already shown any frustrated with repeated questions, they learn very quickly that guessing is much safer than asking. So then they just guess. And sometimes they guess right. And when they guess right, you think that your communication is working well. But when they guess wrong, it shows up as underperformance. And then you wonder why they didn't just ask. Well, they didn't ask because the environment taught them not to, not intentionally, but consistently. Okay. So picture this: a business owner notices that her team member has been completing project updates in the wrong format for 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 whole weeks. But when she finally says something, the team member says, "I wasn't sure, so I just followed the old template." That's 3 weeks of wrong format work because one team member was too uncertain to ask and too worried about the response if they tried to ask. That's not a performance problem. That's a communication environment problem. And what I want you to understand about that is this: if your team is guessing instead of asking, that tells you more about your communication culture than it does about their capability. Okay. And that brings us to the last and certainly not the least reality. Number three: fixing the performance starts with fixing the communication, not the person. Now, this is where I'm going to be very direct with you, friend, because this is the part that actually changes things. When you have a performance problem on your team, the instinct is to address the person, have a conversation, set the sequence, put them on a plan. And sometimes that is what's needed. I'm not going to deny that. But if you do all of that without looking at the communication system that's underneath it, you're treating a symptom and leaving the cause completely untouched. And the same problem will show up again with that person or with the next person that you bring into that role. So before you conclude that someone isn't performing, I want you to ask yourself 4 questions. Okay. You may want to write these down. So get your pen and paper ready. Number one: did I communicate the expectation clearly and specifically, or did I assume that they understood? Number two: did I verify that they actually understood it the way that I meant it? Number three: did I create an environment where they felt that it was safe to ask questions when something wasn't clear? And number four: did I give them the context that they needed to understand why this matters? Now, if the answer to any of those is no, guess what? You have a communication gap. And it's not a performance problem. And the fix starts with you, not with them. Now, I've watched business owners replace good people because of performance issues that were actually communication failures. And every time the new hire eventually ran into the same wall because the system didn't change, only the person did. And here's the reality that ties all of that together: you can't hold your team accountable to a standard that they were never clearly given. Okay. Now, I want to speak directly to the business owner, to the leader who has been frustrated with their team for a while now. Come closer. Maybe you've had the same conversation multiple times. Maybe you've questioned whether you hired the right people. Maybe you started to wonder if you're just not built for the management side of running a business or to be a leader. Here's what I want you to hear: your team's performance is a reflection of your communication system, not your worth as a leader, not the quality of your people, the system. And the system can be fixed. That's the good news. The difference between a team that consistently hits the mark and one that consistently misses it is almost never the talent in the room. It's things such as, the clarity of the communication around it, the expectations that were set, the context that was shared, and the environment that was built. Those are all things that are within your control as the leader, which means that the gap that you've been living with is not permanent. It's not a people problem. you need to hire your way out of. It's a communication that you can lead your way through. And that changes everything, friend, for what is possible for your business. Your team's performance problem is your communication opportunity. Okay. So here's what I want you to take away from today. Okay. Before you conclude that someone on your team is not performing, I want you to look at the communication underneath it first. Look at what was assumed versus what was actually said. I want you to look at whether the expectation was clear, specific, and verified. I want you to look at whether your team has enough context to understand why their work matters. Because 9 times out of 10, the performance gap closes when the communication gap does. Okay. You see, leading a team well is a skill, and communication is the foundation of it all. It's not a personality trait. It's not something that you either have or you don't. It's something that you build intentionally, deliberately. And if you've been feeling the weight of a team that's not performing the way your business needs them to, I want you to know that there is a way through it. And it starts with looking at the right problem. Okay. Now, before you close this out, I want you to drop in the comments below. Tell me, what's one expectation that you've been assuming that your team understood that you've never actually said out loud? I want to know. And yes, I do read the comments. So, if this episode gave you something real, go ahead, share it with one, two, three, however many leaders or business owners that need to hear about that today. Okay. And listen, I want you to know that something is coming very soon that I've built specific for business owners and leaders who are ready to stop guessing at the leadership side of their business and start leading with a real framework. You don't want to miss it. So make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already so that you're the first to know when it drops. Okay. Also, I always have something new for you here on Thursdays. And remember, the quiet ones move the room. So let your quiet speak loud. I'll catch you on the next one.